Hello reader friends, it's your handy dandy librarian, and today is going to be a little bit of a different video. It's going to be a little bit longer because today I want to talk to you about some of my highly anticipated reads coming out soon, and these are specifically some Latinx reads, so I'm super excited about that. Now, the first book that I want to talk to you about is called Afterlife by Julia Alvarez. It was just released on April 7th by Algonquin Books. And in this book, we meet Antonia Vega. She is the immigrant writer at the center of Afterlife. She's just retired from her college where she taught English when all of a sudden her very beloved dear husband, Sam, suddenly dies. Also, her big-hearted but unstable sister disappears, and then Antonia returns home one evening to find a pregnant, undocumented teenager on her doorstep. Now, Antonia has always sought direction in the literature that she loves. Lines from her favorite authors play in her head like a soundtrack. But now she starts to find that the world demands a little bit more from her other than just words. So Afterlife is a novel set in this political moment of tribalism and distress. And it asks questions like, what do we owe those in crisis in our families, including, or maybe especially, members of our human family? How do we live in a broken world without losing faith in one another or ourselves? And how do we stay true to those glorious souls we have lost? So that's a really good book that I'm excited to read from Julia Alvarez. I haven't read one of hers in a while, so I'm super excited about that. And the next book is Clap When You Land by Elizabeth Acevedo. Expected publication date is to be around May 5th by Hotkey Books. And in this book, we meet Camino Rios, and she lives for the summers when her father visits her in the Dominican Republic. But this time, on the day when his plane is supposed to land, Camino arrives at the airport to see crowds of crying people. And in New York City, we also meet Yahaira Rios when she's called to the principal's office where her mother is waiting to tell her that her father, her hero, has died in a plane crash. So separated by distance and by Papi's secrets, these two girls are forced to face a new reality in which their father is dead and their lives are forever altered. And then, when it seems like they've lost everything of their father, they learn of each other. This is a dual narrative novel written in verse that brims both on grief and love about the devastation of loss and the difficulty of forgiveness and the bittersweet bonds that shapes our lives. And I cannot wait for this book to be in my hands like yesterday. I am Elizabeth Acevedo's biggest fan, and I am so excited for this new novel in verse. I cannot wait to read it. So I'm super excited for that one to come out. And the next book I want to talk to you about is Don't Ask Me Where I'm From by Jennifer De Leon, expected to be out on May 5th by Simon & Schuster. And in this read, we meet first-generation American Latinx Liliana Cruz, and she does what it takes to fit in her new, nearly all-white school. But when her family's secrets spill out and racism at school ramps up, she must decide what she believes in and if she's going to take a stand. Liliana Cruz is up against a lot. Her father has left, again, and her mom has put up a wall. There's also a very clear divide that separates Liliana's diverse inner-city Boston neighborhood from Westburg, the wealthy and the white suburban high school that she's just been accepted to. And there's also the issue that Liliana creates within herself, because in order to survive at Westburg, she believes that she can't just, lighten up. She has to whiten up. But then there's also light is shed on some very hard truths. It isn't that her father doesn't want to come home, it's that he can't, and her whole family is in jeopardy. And when racial tensions at school reach a fever pitch, the walls that divide kind of feel insurmountable for her. And so This book is giving me the Hate You Give vibes, but with a little bit of a Latinx twist, and I am here for it for sure. So I can't wait for this read to come. And the next book is Lobisona by Romina Garber. Expected publication is May 5th by Wednesday Books. Some people are illegal. Lobisonas do not exist. And both of these statements are false. That's right, in this book we meet Manuela Azul. She's been crammed into an existence that feels too small for her as an undocumented immigrant who's on the run from her father's Argentine crime family. Manu is confined to a small apartment in a small life in Miami, Florida, until Manu's protective bubble is kind of just shattered all of a sudden. Her surrogate grandmother is attacked, lifelong lines are exposed, and her mother is arrested by ICE. And without a home, without answers, and finally without shackles, Manu investigates the only clue she has about her past, a mysterious Z emblem, which leads her to a secret world buried within her own. A world connected to her dead father and his criminal past. A world straight out of Argentine folklore where the 7th consecutive daughter is born a bruja and the 7th consecutive son is a lobizón, a werewolf. A world where her unusual eyes allow her to belong. So as Manu uncovers her own story and traces her real heritage all the way back to a cursed city in Argentina, she learns it's not just her U.S. residency that's illegal, it's her entire existence. Now, I don't know much about Argentine folklore, but I am so ready to dive into that fantasy world with this read for sure. I cannot wait to read this book. And the next book is We Are Not From Here by Jenny Torres Sanchez, expected to be out May 19th by Filmel. This is a poignant novel of desperation, escape, and survival across the U.S.-Mexican border, inspired obviously by current events. We have Pulga, Chico, and Pequeña. Pulga has his dreams, Chico has his grief, and Pequeña has her pride. And these three teens have one another, but none of them have illusions about the town that they've grown up in and the dangers that surround them. And even with the love of family, threats lurk around every single corner of where they live. And when those threats become all too real, the trio knows that they have no choice but to run from their country, from their families, and from their beloved home. So crossing from Guatemala through Mexico, they follow the route of La Bestia that might deliver them to a better life if they're lucky enough to survive the journey. With nothing but the bags on their backs and the desperation drumming through their hearts, Pulga, Chico, and Pequeña know there's no turning back, really, despite that unknown that awaits them and the darkness that seems to follow wherever they go. I am so excited to read this. Obviously, it's very current in our events lately, but I'm really excited to get my hands on this book and start reading. And the next book is Mexican Gothic by Celia Moreno Garcia, expected to be out on June 30th by Del Rey. And this is the author of Gods of Jade and Shadow, which I also highly recommend. So this book is a classic Gothic suspense novel. It's a story about an isolated mansion in the 1950s in Mexico and the brave socialite drawn to its treacherous secrets. After receiving a frantic letter from her newly wedded cousin begging for someone to save her from mysterious doom, Noemi Taboada heads to High Place, a distant house in the Mexican countryside, She's not sure what she'll find. Her cousin's husband, a handsome Englishman, is a stranger, and Noemi knows little about the region. So Noemi is also an unlikely rescuer. She's a glamorous debutante, and her chic gowns and her perfect red lipstick are more suited for cocktail parties rather than amateur sleuthing. But she's also tough, smart, and has an indomitable will, and she will not be afraid. Not of her cousin's new husband, who is both menacing and alluring, not of his father, and she's just fascinated about this house and this mystery. And so the house begins to invade Noemi's dreams with visions of blood and doom. And her only ally in this kind of weird house is this family's youngest son. Shy and gentle, he seems to want to help Noemi, but might also be hiding dark knowledge of his family's past. So this is a pretty interesting, spooky, scary, kind of fantasy weird. I'm already scared but highly intrigued book, and I cannot wait to read this story for sure. And finally, the last book I'm highly anticipating to read this year is Running by Natalia Sylvester, expected to be out July 14th. By Clarion Books. And in this book, we meet Cuban-American Mariana Ruiz. And when her father runs for president, Mari starts to see him with new eyes. A novel about waking up and standing up and what happens when you stop seeing your dad as a hero while the whole country is watching that. This is an authentic, humorous, and generously written debut novel about privacy, waking up, speaking up. In this story, Senator Anthony Ruiz is running for president, and throughout his successful political career, he has always had his daughter's vote. But a presidential campaign brings a whole new level of scrutiny to a very sheltered 15-year-old Mariana and the rest of her Cuban-American family. So the Ruiz family, there's a lot of tension during this presidential campaign, and Mari begins to learn about the details of her father's political positions, and she realizes that her father is not the man she thought he was. But how do you find your voice when everyone's watching, when it means disagreeing with your father publicly? What do you do when your dad stops being your hero? So this is an interesting book for this time of year, especially it being a political year, 2020. This is a book that I'm highly anticipating reading as well, and I hope you are too. That's all for today, and until then, I hope you found a good book to put on your to-read list. I hope you have a good book that you're currently reading, and we'll see you next time for some more good book recommendations. Bye.